Hello, I'm Harry Riley. Welcome to Harry's Tales. This is dedicated to Karen and Pete and is called Captain X, Witchfinder, a short story by Harry Riley. This story is fiction, and resemblance to anyone living or dead is coincidental. It is the year 1648, and Captain Xavier Cornblack is in the service of Oliver Cromwell, the Great Protector. His powers are virtually unlimited, and he roams the country, at will, hunting for witches. Gavin, son of Malcolm, the last in the line of hooded smugglers, struggled up the steep pathway in the darkness of Bulstrode Bay. Both his arms were up around his head, and he was puffing with the exertion of carrying a large barrel of French brandy on his shoulders. Halfway up the path he turned to his left and disappeared through a black hole in the cliff side. This hole would be covered by a bramble in the daytime, but was used as a secret tunnel to the hillside top. Inside, the tunnel was lit by flaming tar sticks, set in iron scoops, rammed into the wall. Uneven steps led to the top, and eventually he emerged into a moonlit night, directly out of the middle of a tombstone, in the graveyard of the Church of St. Barnabas. Anyone about on that wild and windy night in North Yorkshire would have believed in the resurrection of the dead from that moment on, as the black hooded silhouette of a man put down his burden and stretched to recover his breath. Suddenly he was grabbed by the throat in a grip of iron and informed he was in the presence of the dreaded Captain X. He was told all his comrades were dead. His captor was a broad-shouldered giant of a man who had been promoted on the field of battle by Oliver Cromwell for his prowess with the sword and his merciless treatment of vanquished foes. He had been seriously wounded during the Battle of Edgehill and wore a leather patch over his vacant left eye. Now he demanded Gavin take him to the home of the witch, Adeline Warne. She was a pretty young herbalist, living somewhere in the fishing village of Bulstrode Bay, and had been condemned by superstitious fishwives. Gavin was scared, but being a plucky youngster, he managed to give the troopers the slip in the darkness, and knowing the area well, he managed to warn the girl of her imminent danger. Unwittingly, she sought refuge back in the Catholic Church of St. Barnabas, where the sympathetic priest hid her behind a secret door in the sacristy. Captain X and his ruthless men ransacked every hovel in the village, kicking home the simple doors with their rowan twigs to ward off evil demons, until one simple-minded fool was tricked into giving her present whereabouts away. Later, spread-eagled on his own high altar, the priest was tortured, and finally capitulated, naming the innocent girl as a foul and wicked witch who had lured small children to their deaths, and brought whole families to their knees with her vile curses. Poor Adeline was dragged out of her refuge and taken in broad daylight to the deep pond at the edge of the village, and there she was publicly accused of witchcraft in front of many assembled villagers. When asked if she had anything to say, she just shrugged, and in a calm, quiet voice said, "Do what you will. It's just one small step from the cradle to the grave." The troopers set about their task. Her hair was cut off and set alight to see if any evil spirits arose, and then, disappointed, they fastened ropes to her hands and feet and lowered her from the pack bridge into the water, whilst Captain X was all the time reciting Latin verses to drive out the evil spirits from her body. The captain had already swimmed over 50 witches, and now, as was his usual practice, he immersed the girl 3 times. If she sank, she was innocent, and if she floated, she was a witch, and would be burned, alive or dead. She was far too quiet and compliant, and so, to spice up the proceedings a bit, 2 troopers started prodding her inert body in the water with sticks, whilst the crowd yelled out, "Drown her, burn the evil witch." She never begged once for mercy, and her limp body in its long white dress was finally fished out after it had sunk to the bottom, exonerating her in the eyes of men and her maker. Several more sympathetic onlookers carried her body up to the Church of St. Barnabas for burial, as the captain and his men watched silently nearby. She was interned beside the priest, who had finally betrayed her. A few spots of rain fell, and a sudden thunderstorm erupted. A flash of lightning came down, instantly killing the 2 troopers who had tormented her in the water. Thunder roared in the dark sky overhead. Captain X looked up, and another lightning flash blinded his one remaining good eye. "Oh, God help me, I can't see," he screamed. He was led away, and his sight never returned. He survived on his rich spoils for a year or two, and then the money ran out, and he became a homeless vagabond, wandering about the hills and vales begging for food. His body, once fit and powerful, became jaundiced and arthritic. He felt the end was near as he tapped blindly along the steeply rising gradient, a dirty old bandage covering his eyes. The smell of the sea got ever closer, and he could hear the gulls wheeling and screaming overhead. Suddenly a church bell rang out, and as he stumbled against a big stone, he realised he was in a graveyard. "Come along, I'll take you to the church." The girl's voice sounded vaguely familiar as she gently took his stick and helped him along. The young girl in a long white dress and the sightless stooping giant walked past the church until they both stood at the very edge of the cliff, overlooking the sea. "Come along," she said. "Don't be afraid. It's only one small step from the cradle to the grave." End.